This is the Andy Pollin Hour on Washington's new home for sports. ESPN 630, the sports capital.
Back on track with a fairly typical Tuesday. Tony's out today, so we're rolling till noon. A lot of things to talk about. I watched the Serena Williams match last night at the U.S. Open. I used to be a huge tennis fan. I remember, I think it was 1973, there was a match between Ken Rosewall and Rod Laver that was on television on a Saturday afternoon. It must have gone 5 hours, and I think I watched the whole thing. I don't have the patience for that anymore. But this was really a wonderful event last night, and Serena won. She won in straight sets, and she's very much alive. And you'll hear Chris Everett say later this hour that she thinks there's a chance that Serena can win. I don't know if that's possible, but who would know better than Chris Everett, who announced her retirement going into the U.S. Open in 1989 and was knocked out by Zina Garrison. I was there for that, and she did not get through. I think that was her first round match, and she did not get through that, and that was the end. But Serena, boy, wouldn't that be something if she goes out with a bang and passes Margaret Court for most majors won during her career and ends it with a championship. A lot of tennis, of course, still to go. She's got to win 5 matches in order to be the U.S. Open champion. So we'll talk more about that. Also, an update on Brian Robinson out of the hospital, by the way. So That's positive. He's due to meet with team doctors today. There's no word, if he'll play this season or not. But the fact that he only spent one night in the hospital has to be very, very good news. Now, it's cut down day. They have to get down to 53 by 4 o'clock this afternoon. Looks like they'll get there before that because they have a practice at 12:30. And some of the names are trickling out. Both these guys got lit up on Saturday night. I don't know whether or not that had a lot to do with them being cut, but reportedly Corn Elder and Danny Johnson, both who played corner for the team last year, they're both out. Now, things can change and players can be brought back, and you've got the practice squad, which doesn't have limitations like it used to, like Wes Martin, who they brought in just last week because of the shortage of linemen and also to get some intel on the Jaguars, since that's where he came from. He could go on the practice squad. He's due to be released as well. But we'll find out for sure what the full list is. I don't think there's going to be any real shocking names on it. And what they do at running back with Brian Robinson, clearly not available for the first part of the season, is going to be interesting to see if they pick somebody up or just go with what they have in what they call now the running back room. I never heard of this when I was a kid watching football. Did you ever hear this? That there's the quarterback room and there's the running back room and the wide receiver room. I thought it was a team. I understand position groups meet individually, but this thing about rooms, that's new to me, relatively new to me. Last 4 or 5 years is when I first remembered hearing about this. I did want to get this in, though. This is, it's not a huge story locally, but to me, it caught me by surprise. Last night, Albert Pujols, who's on this unbelievable tear as he finishes up what is supposed to be his last season in baseball, though the way he's going, he may think about playing again. But he hit his 694th career home run last night. And it's not so much that he hit it. It's the fact that he hit it off Ross Detweiler, who I was kind of stunned to hear is still playing. I mean, I guess I knew he was still playing. He's not that old. He's 36 years old. But it was the guy who was here when this team was bad, did not make it to the good years with the Nationals, but was here for 7 years and kind of went up and down between the minors and the big club. And since he's left here, he has been everywhere. He's been with the White Sox. He's been with the Braves, the A's, the Rangers, the Padres, the now Guardians, the Mariners, the Marlins, and now he's pitching for the Cincinnati Reds. And he set a record because with the Pujols home run, he's now hit it off 450 different pitchers. So victim number 450 was our old friend Ross Detweiler. Now, what Pujols is doing at 42 is remarkable. He's got 8 home runs in August alone. That ties Barry Bonds for April of 2007, which I believe was his last year in the majors. Carl Yastrzemski, his last year in 1983. And it's the most in a single month by a player 42 years or older. And he had just 7 from April through July. So he's more than doubled his total, or has hit as many home runs in the month of August as he did in the months of June and July. And, you know, as he approaches 700, which looks like he's going to get this year, does he think about playing another year and passing Babe Ruth at 715? I don't think he's going to get Bonds at 762, but this may alter his thinking with the hot streak that he's on. I also saw this on Twitter, and this is absolutely incredible. Dan Clark tweeted this out about an hour ago, and he writes, Serena Williams wins at the U.S. Open. Albert Pujols hits a home run. Vlad Guerrero Sr., Craig Biggio, and Dante Bichette all record a hit. You're saying, wait a minute, Guerrero Sr.'s not playing anymore. Craig Biggio's not playing anymore. Dante Bichette's not playing anymore. That's right, because this happened 21 years ago, August 29th, 2001. Fast forward to last night, 21 years later, Serena Williams wins at the U.S. Open. Albert Pujols hits a home run. Vlad Guerrero Jr., Kevin Biggio, and Bo Bichette all record a hit. So you had Serena doing what she did 21 years ago, Albert Pujols doing what he did 21 years ago, but now the kids are doing what the dads did 21 years earlier, with Vlad Guerrero Jr., Kevin Biggio, and Bo Bichette all getting hit. That's incredible, and that tells you a lot of what you need to know about these two incredible athletes who have done this for an incredible period of time. I think what we're seeing from Pujols is not as amazing as what we're seeing from Serena, because Serena's 40 years old. You're not supposed to be doing this at 40, and we'll get to more on that coming up. But as I mentioned, the news is that Brian Robinson, is out of the hospital. Police have released some video and some pictures of the suspects. I don't know how close up the pictures are, but they have some video of the getaway car. They did not get away in Robinson's car, which was apparently what they were after, the attempted carjacking there. But they do have some pictures of the car, and it looks like, I'm not sure, I saw the clear picture of the license plate, but they probably can figure that out, so I would expect that they would have an arrest. Robert Conti III, the police chief of D.C., described the assailants as having shoulder-length dreadlocks, and they're probably between the ages of 15 and 17, and more reporting on this. It seems that Robinson was able to wrestle away the gun from one of them, and was shot by the other, but the fact that he only spent one night in the hospital has to be very encouraging. It sounds like he was shot in the lower leg and I guess without a better word, the buttocks, which is a fleshy part. I guess if you're going to get shot, I know it's painful there, but there are worse places to get shot in the lower part of the body. So if there's any positive, there's that. This was Ron Rivera talking to reporters yesterday with what he knew as of about 11 o'clock in the morning.
I can't get into the specifics of it other than to just say he's doing well. We had an opportunity to visit with him last night, which was really a relief and kind of cool, because he was in a really good place. The doctors were very positive with him, and he was very positive as well. So, we're very fortunate. He's very fortunate. It's a very unfortunate situation. But he's doing well, and it'll be a matter of time before he's back out here. There is no timeline, but as I said, everything was very positive.
And for you, first of all, how long were you guys down there? And then second, what's it like to get that kind of a phone call?
It was hard. I mean, I've gotten several phone calls as a head coach, unfortunately. But this one was one of the harder ones. First of all, because he's a heck of a young man. He really is. More than just a football player. He is really a heck of a young man. And so it kind of blindsided me a little bit. We were actually winding the day down when we got the call. And then, we're just following our team protocol. We started connecting with everybody that needed to be connected to. And, once we found out where he was, a contingent of us went down to be with him. We had Mr. and Mrs. Snyder were there. Martin went down. Jason was there as well. Dr. Castellero, Dr. Nunziata, Dr. Roberts. myself, and Randy Jordan, the running backs coach. Randy and I got together and drove down together. And a few of the players were able to show up as well. So it was really cool to have, a contingency of people there. And then his aunt and uncle on his mom's side was there. His uncle is a colonel stationed here in the Air Force.
Ron, it looked like you got the team together at the start of practice. What did you say to everyone?
Well, I actually I got them together prior to going out on the field. We had a quick meeting, and we talked about, what had happened. And just, letting them know, hey, it was a somber day. We expected it to be a tough day. So just hang in there and do the best you can as far as practice was concerned. And to be honest with you, I thought they rallied and they practiced pretty doggone good. So I was very pleased with that. They were able to focus. And I know their hearts are heavy right now because a lot of them are still thinking about Brian. But again, as I said, we're very fortunate. He's very fortunate, and a lot of the news is positive.
So that, again, was Rivera yesterday. As Robinson, I think, was awaiting surgery or was undergoing surgery, he put out a tweet, Robinson did, later in the day that said the surgery went well, and, again, released from the hospital sometime yesterday afternoon. Now, this is more on this. Rivera asked about how this all unfolded on Sunday evening as he first got the phone call about what happened.
Got the phone call, I think, somewhere around 6 o'clock, I think it was. I had actually popped into Coach Jordan's office, and irony of all ironies, we were actually watching some Brian Robinson tape. And so when it hit us, and I told Coach Jordan right away, and he took it really hard initially, and, he just said, is he okay? And I said, well, for the most part, it sounds like it, but we weren't sure. And so I went over to Martin's office, and we had a conversation. We got our head of security on, Mike Jacobs, who was terrific with the whole situation. He was one of the first people that Brian called to let him know what was going on, and then from there, Mike went into action, and we connected with everybody on our team that needed to be connected as far as our protocols were concerned. And then in talking with everybody, you could feel the anger swelling up, but also the concern. And it was, the conversations were, really about, hey, I hope he's okay. And, there was a lot of worry. I texted Brian because I know he had talked to Mike. So I just texted him, and he called me. And he called me to let me know he was going to be okay. So that took a lot off my mind as far as that was concerned. But the biggest concern, obviously, was just making sure he was okay.
You mentioned the anger. Does that come from that this just happened on the street, or could you expand on that?
That this, this continues to be a nationwide epidemic, gun violence. And I think, we really got to start getting to the point where we start talking about gun safety. We can't make this a partisan issue. This has to be something that everybody has to work on together in our communities throughout the United States. And it can happen. It just shows you can happen anywhere and to anybody. So it's something that we need to work on and come together to be able to solve. And again, I'm talking about gun safety.
And where he went, this is from the Metro section of the Post today. This paragraph, along the 8th Street corridor, which is where he was shot, he had come out of a seafood restaurant right near Ben's Chili Bowl on the 1000th block of 8th Street to come back to his car when he was apparently confronted by these two suspects, one of whom shot him. This paragraph, along the 8th Street corridor, violent crime is up 89% compared with the same time last year, according to data provided by the city. Robberies, including carjackings, are up more than 100%, from 13 at this time in 2021 to 28 so far this year, and there have been 8 reported assaults with dangerous weapons, an increase from 5 at this time in 2021. So he's going into an area which, well, you would think, daylight before 6 o'clock at night on a Sunday might be safe, but it's not. And more on this. In June, not long after a 15-year-old was killed and 3 others wounded in a shooting at an event at the U Street area, Mayor Bowser told residents that she had a plan to keep them safe in the busiest entertainment hubs. She vowed to station teams of police officers, transportation officials, and other agency employees on 8th Street, Connecticut Avenue, and the U Street corridor on weekend nights and through Labor Day. 2 months later, the effectiveness of that strategy is unclear. The mayor's nightlife teams, which are in service from 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays, were not active when Robinson was shot. Robinson was one of 3 people shot or stabbed this weekend at the 8th Street corridor. And I looked this up about Griffin because I think this is about Robinson. Excuse me, because I think this is important. He's from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. He grew up there, right in the shadow of Alabama. He played at Alabama. He spent 5 years there. So while he's 23 years old, he's really away from home for the first time in his life. Grew up in Tuscaloosa, played his entire college football career in Tuscaloosa. And I would imagine going out and about in Tuscaloosa is a whole lot different than in Washington, D.C. And in Tuscaloosa, where he was a football player, he was probably recognized wherever he went and probably treated like royalty. That's not the case. That's an insular bubble that he doesn't have in D.C., in an area which I just went through the statistics on how dangerous it is. And here's Terry McLaurin, who went to Ohio State. I think he grew up in Indiana. But he's been here now. This is his 4th year here. And he's got an understanding of what it's like to be a professional athlete in this area. I don't think Brian Robinson was recognized. Terry McLaurin probably much more recognizable now, but also with an understanding about what you have to do to be always on the lookout for something like this.
I know you never expect something like this to happen, but when you go out in public, do you ever worry that something like this could happen, or do you take extra precaution or something like that?
Yeah, honestly, I was talking to my girlfriend about it last night. You kind of think about it like, I pride myself on just being a normal human being. Like when I go out in Ashburn or in D.C., like if I'm going to go see a concert, I'm seeing it like the other people that are there. And sometimes I guess you forget, like, you're Terry McLaurin or whatever. I don't really see it as that, but other people kind of do. And I don't see myself as a target or anything like that, but it just makes me try to be more aware, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I can't, live in fear and walk around thinking something's going to happen. But at the same time, you have to be vigilant. So, I don't really go too many places, but when I do, I try to, I don't really post my locations or things like that. I kind of just go about my business, but things are happening all across the world, and it's unfortunate. You never know what can happen, so you just have to, be as precautious as possible, and have people around you that they can trust. Like, I don't really go a lot of places by myself.
Yeah, that's important, and that's something I think they should stress to these young players. No matter what you do, go with somebody else. Don't go alone. If there was another person here, I don't know if this would have happened. These are two guys approaching one person. Yeah, it's possible there was a carjacking, but at least you got somebody to call 911 or somebody to say, hey, let them have the keys, Brian. Don't do this. But you didn't have that. And so I think short of like driving through a drive-through window at a fast food place or a pharmacy or something like that, that players should be encouraged wherever they go, do not go alone. And this could have been a horrible, horrible tragedy. It's very sad what happened here, but thank God he wasn't killed. I mean, he decided to wrestle one. I don't know whether he saw the gun or maybe he did when he started to get the gun away from one of the suspects, and the other one I'm sure was scared to death. This guy, 6'3", 6'2", weighs 240 pounds, something like that. He's a big guy, and I'm sure he got scared and he shot him. And it's thank God, because this was the Sean Taylor thing. Sean Taylor, the ones who broke into his house, they thought he was on the road with the team. They didn't think he was in his house in Miami and thought he was in Tampa with the team. But as it turned out, he had an injury and didn't travel and was home. And they broke in. He scared them when he came out of his bedroom with a machete, and they shot him. And he wound up bleeding out. Thank God it wasn't the same thing here. But I think Terry McLaurin, who is as savvy a person as I've ever heard talk, not just as an athlete, but boy, he's on top of everything. He understands this. Do not go out alone. Just don't do it. There's just no reason. There's other people. Look, they have the head of security. They have people available. There are trainers. There are people. If you want to do something and you're an athlete of that level, you'll find somebody to go with you and do that. And I think that's a real cautionary tale. And thank God it wasn't more serious than that. Coming up, we'll get to Serena's big night at the U.S. Open. It's the Andy Pollin Hour, ESPN 630.
The Andy Pollin Hour on ESPN 630, the sports capital.
All right, Tony's off today, so we'll roll until noon today. We'll have lots more reaction to the Brian Robinson situation station in Ashburn. I'm just flipping through the beat reporters' tweets on who is expected to be cut, who reportedly has been cut as they get the roster down to 53 today. John Toth, center, reportedly released. They've also cut offensive lineman Nolan Laufenberg. Again, these guys could wind up on the practice squad. Kaliki Hudson, linebacker. Danny Johnson, Corn Elder. Matt Cole, wide receiver. Justin Hamilton, defensive tackle. Tyler Clark. Stephen Parker, defensive back. No huge names here, and I don't think there are going to be any real big surprises. Danny Johnson's been around for a while, but was terrible. Was terrible over the weekend against Baltimore, so not a huge surprise there, but we'll keep an eye on what's going on there. But the great news on Robinson is that he is out of the hospital, expected to meet with team doctors today, and there is the possibility that he's going to play again this season. More than likely, he's going to start the season on the PUP list and will be ineligible to play in the first 4 games, but possibility of him coming back, which is good. So I tuned in the match last night. Again, I would rarely watch a first-round match at the U.S. Open because, tennis is long. It's a big investment. The men's matches, especially, women play best of 3, so they sometimes are shorter. But still, you could go 2.5 hours with a match, even longer. And Serena Williams played last night, and it was an odd thing because if she lost, that was the end, right? I mean, she said she's going to retire. She wrote a piece in Vogue magazine about that, and she talked about how she was going to move to the next phase of her life. She has a daughter. She may want to have another child. So at age 40, this is probably going to be it. And she has not played well this year. Had not looked good at all, and I think the expectation was, okay, even though she's playing somebody who nobody knows, that it's more than likely she's just not in the kind of condition to win at the U.S. Open. It's just not, 5-10 years ago, sure, but you're playing somebody named Danka Kovinic. Certainly not a well-known name, and there was a period of time in the match where it looked like it was not going to go Serena's way. She won the first 2 games, but lost 3 straight, was down 3-2, but wound up winning in straight sets. And they had a nice ceremony afterwards, which I'll get to, but she found herself in that. And she looked, and you've heard Chris Everett, if you're watching the match, say, she really looks good here. She has not looked like this recently. And she also, talked about after the match, I'm going to play some of this, they had this big ceremony that was hosted by Gayle King, who was there. She had to get up early today, so kind of a late night for her. But she hosted this, and she played something from Oprah, and they had lots of people who gave tributes to her, including Billie Jean King, which I'll play here in a moment. But this was Serena talking to reporters afterwards about the reaction that she got, not just when she got out on the court, but after she won the match.
I was just thinking, is this for real, really? And at the same time, I'm also thinking, I still have a match to play, and I want to be able to play up to this reception almost. And it was so loud, and I just was overwhelmed in a good way. And but at the same time, it's like you have to be focused, and you have to be laser focused, and that's what I needed to do, and that's what I tried to do.
Yeah, that's the thing. She was trying to win. It wasn't like this is a farewell. Her outfit was great. I mean, it was black with all these sequins. It was almost like an evening gown, and she was playing at night, which is significant. I know Tony has talked about this. He talked about it on PTI yesterday, that Jimmy Connors in, I think, 1990 and 91 had deep runs in the U.S. Open when he was in his upper 30s, like 37, 38 years old. He made it to the quarterfinals one year, and I think the semifinals in 1990. And he played these matches that went on seemingly all night. They started like at 8 o'clock. He wasn't finished till like 1 o'clock in the morning, and he would use the crowd. He was pumping up the crowd. Serena really didn't do that. She was just, she had the crowd behind her the whole way. But, as we talked about in that period of time, and I remember covering those U.S. Opens, and I think I was at one of his night matches. I know he's a day match there. That you know, the feeling was, wow, this is magic. This is Jimbo Connors, the kid who grew up playing on the public courts. You know, this is his place. The U.S. Open, the atmosphere is so different than it is at Wimbledon and the French Open and the Australian Open. This is New York, baby, New York, New York, and people let it all hang out. And Connors, you know, he got the people going. It was magic when that happened. And there was some of that with Serena last night, but there was also the expectation of, well, you know, she is 40 years old and she hasn't played a whole lot recently and she hasn't looked good when she played. So if this is the end, let's give her a proper send-off. And Billie Jean King had written a speech, and it sounds like she was prepared to say, okay, this is it. Go walk off in the sunset. You're done. But she's really not done. This was Billie Jean last night.
I love it. And you hate to lose. It is great. You've touched our hearts and minds to be our authentic self, to use our voices, to dream big. Thank you for your leadership and commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Especially for women and women of color. Yes! Most of all, thank you for sharing your journey with every single one of us. We love you. God bless you. And guess what? You're just beginning.
And Serena gave it a fist pump. Billie Jean King is the most important person, I think, in the history of women's sports. Yeah, I mean, I think she did more to gain equality for women than anybody else at great personal cost. She's the one that fought for equal pay at the major events. She started her own tour, the Virginia Slims tour. You couldn't do that today with a cigarette sponsor, but you know, she really did great things and really was one of the movers and shakers, and Title IX happening, just so many things about her, and to be the trailblazer that she was, and then to celebrate somebody else who kind of took it to the next level here. I mean, if you haven't seen the movie, you should see it, King Richard. It's tremendous, and I'm sure you know the story of Richard Williams taking his two young daughters, Venus and Serena, to the public courts and teaching them how to play in Compton, California. I mean, this is a remarkable story, and it's a remarkable story which could have easily ended, 10, 12 years ago when the two of them would have been finished as tennis players. Most tennis players are done by the time they're late 20s, early 30s at most, and here's Serena at 40, and there's this possibility too that she could win, that she could go out as a champion. She's got 23 majors. She could make it 24 and pass Margaret Court. Yeah, I guess equal Margaret Court for most majors won. And Chris Everett says, yeah, it is possible.
I don't see anybody extremely dangerous. I see really good, solid players that could beat her. But if Serena's playing, again, it's all about Serena. I mean, she has the match on her racket. If she's nice. A little off, she's going to lose. And if she's on, she's going to win. But I really felt that she had her rhythm. She had her balance. She knows the ebbs and flows of a match now. She knows big points. She has that above all the other players still, the intangibles.
Yeah, remember Larry Michael used to talk about the skin tangibles? No, intangibles are it, and the crowd is eating her up. Now, she's had some things in her career that I don't think she should be proud of, berating the umpires and things like that. And her father, who was, such a presence early in his career, he doesn't even show up anymore. I didn't see him there. I haven't seen him at a match for Serena or Venus in years. The mother, Oracene, was there, and of course she had her daughter there, who was wearing kind of a matching outfit to Serena, which was really cute. So there's all that. There's the player who burst on the scene as a young girl with the beads in her hair, and now she is a grown woman and so highly respected and so loved. And you just really felt that last night. The scene in the stands was not just, it wasn't just celebrities that were there. It was the combination of celebrities. I don't know whether you caught this or not, but the camera panned around. And I think at the first set, you got a shot of Martina Navratilova sitting there with her dog Lulu. And Chris Everett says, oh, yeah, she doesn't go anywhere without that dog. Okay, that's odd in itself to see somebody sitting in the stands at the U.S. Open with a dog, but it's Martina. Okay, so you can allow that. She's sitting next to Mike Tyson. Did they go together? Were they given celebrity tickets together on purpose? I mean, who would have put those two together? Then they pan around a little bit more, and there's Bill Clinton sitting there with Dr. Ruth. Dr. Ruth, 94 years old. I think I know what they were talking about. But, I mean, I hadn't seen Dr. Ruth in years. Clinton lives in New York, so and he's a big sports fan, and not a surprise that he would want to go to the U.S. Open, but he's there. And then the others are there. Spike Lee, who's always there for the big New York events. Queen Latifah was there. Rebel Wilson, Hugh Jackman, Katie Couric, who lives in New York, Matt Damon, Gayle King, as I mentioned, she hosted the post-match ceremony, and Lindsey Vonn. Lindsey Vonn was there. So Serena's going to play again tomorrow, and if she wins tomorrow, things pick up, and it gets bigger and bigger, and maybe we have what we had with Jimmy Connors in 1990 and 91. I think it would be so cool, and it would be so great for tennis if that happens. And just a great night, and not a great match because she won rather easily, 6-3, 6-3, but just the emotions of the whole thing with the crowd and with the post-match and with all that went along with it. Just a great celebration of tennis. A little football here. Tom Brady, and there's, you look at the pictures that are up of him, I swear it does look like he had plastic surgery. I don't know if that could be done in 11 days, but boy, his jawline looks a lot different now than it did last year. I mean, there's just so much weird talk about what's going on here. The 11-day disappearance in the middle of training camp, which he never addressed other than to say, hey, I'm 45 years old and I got a lot of S going on. Well, I'm 19 years older, exactly, and I got a lot of S going on. But I don't just disappear from work for 11 days, especially in a training camp situation. So there's that. Also, he was asked after the Buccaneers preseason game on Saturday, that's the only time he's talked since he's come back, about all this speculation that he was going to go to another team. And, if you don't remember all of this, and all this has happened, really recently, all this news, August 2nd, Dolphins got hit with a stiff penalty by the NFL for tampering with Brady. According to the league, the Dolphins made impermissible communications with Brady both in 2019 and 2020 while he was still under contract to the Patriots. Then Dana White said a deal was basically done to bring Brady to the Raiders along with Rob Gronkowski, which Gronkowski confirmed. And then there's this, in case you don't remember this, last October, there was a book that came out that claimed Brady wanted to sign with the 49ers in 2000 and finish his career in San Francisco. He grew up a 49ers fan, was at the game where Dwight Clark had the catch. And according to the book, which is titled It's Better to Be Feared, Brady actually reached out to his good friend Wes Welker, who had just finished his first season as the receivers coach for the 49ers. During the conversation, which happened at some point after the 49ers lost to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, Brady made it clear he would immediately sign with the 49ers if they would have him. So that's three teams that have all been connected to Brady: the Dolphins, the 49ers, and the Raiders. And Brady said, he was asked about this, after the game, he said, I read all the stories about all these different places I was supposed to go or where I could have gone, and I'm like, I'm only going to one place, which was here. I think this whole organization knows that, and all the conversations we've had over the period of time, I chose the right place for me. Well, you did choose the right place because you won a Super Bowl, and you had a nice run last year, and were it not for a great drive by the Rams at the end of the game, you might have had a chance to beat them in overtime, but you didn't. Okay, so I don't think that's necessarily saying that none of these things happened. And I also think there's a possibility that this 11-day disappearance had something to do with him trying to finagle his way to another team. I mean, I don't know if it can happen at this stage, but he also said, I'm pretty good at football. I can pick it up pretty quickly. So he could probably go to another team where he's familiar with the offense now and play this season. Is it going to happen? Probably not. But all possibilities are still there with this guy. And as you see athletes become more and more powerful in sports, you're seeing it in the NBA, and you're seeing it in the NFL. You know, Brady might not be done trying to go someplace else, and whether he plays someplace else this year or next year, I think it's a real possibility. Real possibility. All right, coming up, Shaquem Griffin, who is the only player ever to be drafted with one hand, has called it a career. His remarkable story and more as we continue. It's the Andy Pollin Hour, ESPN 630.
The Andy Pollin Hour on ESPN 630, the sports capital.
And for Tony today, and in the next hour, I want to deal with more on the Commanders and the reaction to the shooting of Brian Robinson. Fortunately, out of the hospital, expected to meet with team doctors today, but more reaction from teammates yesterday. Also yesterday, there was this news that Shaquem Griffin, who was the brother of Shaquille Griffin, who is still playing in the NFL. In fact, the Commanders will see him on opening day, plays for Jacksonville now, and was playing for Seattle when Shaquem, who is his twin brother, but took a redshirt year at the University of South Florida, so came out a year later. They drafted him in the 5th round, and Shaquem Griffin became the first player ever with one hand to be drafted in the modern era of football, a 5th-round pick. And he played special teams with Seattle for a few years, signed with Miami, and there was some chance he was going to make the team. He also had some offers from some other teams, but announced his retirement. And he talked about it on the NFL Network the other day, about his career. And really, the decision to retire was twofold. One, encouragement from Commissioner Roger Goodell to be part of the league's Legends program, and the fact that he no longer had the opportunity to play with his twin brother, which he had done throughout his life.
I mean, it's kind of still surreal because, you know, you never know how it's going to come about. And then when it does, you're starting to put a lot of stuff in perspective. And I feel like for me is, you know, playing with your twin is something that's second to none. And I feel like the journey that we, embarked on as far as like growing up, Little League, high school, college, and then getting to the league, we literally played every phase with each other to the point that I don't know what it looks like to play without him. So I feel like for me is, like I was telling you guys earlier, I found a new piece of mine because it's just like, I kind of knew what my push was. I knew that factor was, and it was family for me. It's like my family believed in me before I even got to the chance, like this is real. And I feel like, having that separation where I'm not with that part that kind of gave me that drive is like, it's kind of bittersweet, but it doesn't feel the same, and I feel like for me is like, plan A for me was always to help people. Not knowing how it's going to look, not knowing how it's going to come about, but I always want that pave that way to help anybody. My mom was somebody who always helped somebody, and my dad kind of preached to us is like, plan B is football. Plan A is that's what you need to focus on. That's what you go to school for. That's what you get your good grades for. And like now it's like it's starting to become a real thing, and that's why I was smiling so hard, because it's an exciting thing. It's bittersweet, yes, but it's an exciting moment to embark in a journey that I always wanted to be in, and that's motivating people, helping people, having people have that positive mindset, that mentality to be better than what you think you really are, because you got so many people who believe in you, loving you, and sometimes you got to tap into that side to see more for yourself, and that's what I was able to do.
Yeah, really a remarkable story, and it almost is almost the same thing as Jim Abbott, who became a great major league pitcher, born with one hand. He played quarterback in high school, and went on to pitch at the University of Michigan and threw a no-hitter for the New York Yankees. Played about, 8 or 9 years in the majors. Just absolutely remarkable, and examples of how you can do almost anything if you put your mind to it. And Shaquem Griffin, who did great things in football, is now going to try and inspire others as part of the league's Legends program. Speaking of remarkable stories in a way different vein, the Baltimore Orioles. The Orioles last year finished 52-110. They lost 110 games. This year, it'll be impossible for them to lose 110 games. They are 67-60 on the year. So even if they lose the rest of them, they won't match last year's record. How have they done this? How have they put themselves not only in a much better spot with a winning record, 7 games over 500 at 67-60, but how have they put themselves in a position where they could be a playoff team? They're just 2 games out. It's a big series coming up. Cleveland's already in. Cleveland's well in position to be in the postseason, and the Orioles open a 3-game series there tonight. But how are they able, with a team that was not expected to be much better than last year, how are they in a position to be this good this year? And they were terrible at the beginning of the year, but they have really turned things around. Brandon Hyde is, I think, going to be manager of the year. The Orioles, and this is from a Tom Verducci story in SI. Verducci has a number of stats here. They have lowered their ERA at home to 3.42, which is the 10th best in baseball. The pitchers have improved their overall strike rate from 63.1% to 64.5%. And the percentage of their pitches thrown when ahead in the count goes from 28% to 30%, which doesn't sound like much, only 2%, but increases them from 26th in baseball to 13th. They're 13th best in being ahead in the count. And what Brandon Hyde is telling his pitchers is, focus on getting the ball over the white part of the plate. Challenge your hitters here. And he said the ballpark will take care of it, and our fielding will take care of it. And he says the ballpark has allowed our guys to be more aggressive in the strike zone than before, and that is something that we preached. Also, says Verducci, the Orioles have jumped from 24th in defensive runs saved to 9th. He said, I thought we were going to improve defensively. Jorge Mateo playing Gold Glove defense at shortstop was not something I saw coming. Yeah, Mateo was picked up on waivers a year ago from San Diego because they had a guy by the name of Fernando Tatis, who right now isn't playing because he got popped for steroids. Adley Rutschman, he was their number 1 pick a few years ago. They're wondering why I didn't bring him up sooner. When they brought up Adley Rutschman this year, the team was 16-24. They are 51-36 since then, which is the 3rd best record in the league. They've also had success stories like this. Felix Bautista, signed by the Marlins in 2012 when he was 17 years old. He was 6'5", weighed 180 pounds. He was released after throwing just 38 2/3 innings. Out of baseball, age 20, for 20 months, thinking about playing independent ball. Orioles signed him in August of 2016. He got bigger. He's now 6'8", 280. When he was a kid, 6'5", 180, now 6'8", 280, and he's called the Mountain, throws 100 miles an hour with a nasty splitter, and has 12 strikeouts per 9 innings. So they have relief pitching. They picked up some guys, of course, off waivers. They've gotten some luck with that. They also are doing things like, remember when the Nationals used to have their clap line and all the different things that they did for the players after hitting home runs. The Orioles lead the league, Verducci says, in gimmicks. The home run swag chain, the goggles sign whenever a player gets a nod. Remember Baby Shark with the Nats. The Player of the Game championship belt presented after each win. The Robbie's Playlist T-shirts listing 12 favorite sayings, including number 7, feeling sexy today. And the Omar Little whistle from The Wire is an uber cool entrance song for Batista. They got stuff. They're playing together as a team. Now remember, at the trade deadline, they traded their one All-Star, Jorge Lopez, and Trey Mancini, their best player. The general manager, Mike Elias, said at the time that the analytics did not give his team a chance, a realistic shot at the postseason at that time. So they were, basically, selling out, throwing in the towel at that point. Well, they haven't. The bullpen has been great, and Alex Cora, manager of the Red Sox, recently said now they have the lead and the game is almost over. They're really good, and this is just the beginning. Verducci writes, nobody saw this season coming in Baltimore, not even Brandon Hyde, especially after he lost his best pitcher, John Means, to a season-ending elbow injury. Remember Means pitched a no-hitter last year, out for the year in spring training. He said, in spring training, we had no idea how our pitching was going to turn out. I was nervous about our bullpen. Means got hurt right away. I thought we were going to improve offensively. I thought we were going to improve defensively, and they have, but beyond expectations. Now, here's the big numbers here. Since they put in the 162-game schedule in 1961, 12 teams have lost 100 games. The biggest win improvement among them is the Detroit Tigers, who added 29 wins to get to 72. That still isn't over 500. That's under 500. To find the last team to post a winning record the year after losing 110, you have to go back to the 1899 St. Louis Perfectos. Wow. So think about that. Now there is this. The Orioles, he says, played 10 of their final 14 games against the Astros, Yankees, and Blue Jays, all of whom hold playoff positions. Hyde knows he needs a solid level of relief pitching to get to October. But there's a lot of comparisons here that you've heard to the 1989 Orioles, the Why Not Us team. 1988, that was the team that set the record by starting off 0-21. They finished in 1988, they finished 54-107. Even with the 21 straight losses to start the season, they didn't have as many losses as the Orioles did last year, where they had 110. The 88 Orioles had 107. The 89 Orioles finished 87-75 and went into Toronto in the final weekend of the series with a chance to make the playoffs. In fact, win the division, because in those days they didn't have the wild card. So, this team, what they're doing is perhaps better than the 89 Orioles. And with now 67 wins, I think it's quite conceivable with 2 days left in August and all of September, they could get 20 more wins. And nowadays, with 20 more wins, with 87 wins, you should be in the postseason. Now, again, schedule is tough. They're playing Cleveland tonight. They have games against the Yankees. They have games against the Blue Jays, all of that. But this has been a remarkable story. And what Tom Verducci lays out here is this is historic. There hasn't been anything like this before. And I was out there a week and a half ago. They played the Cubs, and it was an afternoon game that had not been scheduled. I know the Cubs bring in a lot of people. But it's a great atmosphere there. And you see a lot of people who've come out of the woodwork as Oriole fans, because they weren't drawing flies for years when they stunk. But now it's a different atmosphere there. And it's going to be a fun month of September in Baltimore. I mean, nobody expected that. If you said back in April that in September the Orioles would be in a chase for a wild card spot, you'd be laughed out of the room. And here they are, and it's happening. It's happening in a big way. So big series starting tonight against Cleveland. Coverage here will get underway at 5:30. Coming up in the next hour, more on the reaction to the terrible incident with Brian Robinson over the weekend. Plus, we'll deal with what Tony and Mike said about the Nebraska debacle. All that's still ahead. It's the Andy Pollin Hour wrapping up. Tony Kornheiser Show next.